Downtown Montgomery, because lawmakers in Alabama are trying to find a solution to that court ruling that's thrown into question the practice of in vitro fertilization, IVF, in that state. Legislators passed a 2-page bill just yesterday to give legal protection to IVF patients, doctors, and clinics. However, the bill does not address the Alabama Supreme Court's ruling that embryos should have the same legal rights and protections as children. Nikki Batiste is with us. Nikki, good morning to you. So you know this area very well as a reporter and as a person. Does this bill address the concerns of doctors, patients, and everybody else?
So far, what we're hearing, not according to reproductive groups. The language in this legislation is short and to the point. It would, quote, provide civil and criminal immunity for death or damage to an embryo to anyone providing or receiving services related to in vitro fertilization. The key word here, guys, is death. Groups like the Center for Reproductive Rights are slamming the legislation, saying it, quote, seeks to grant personhood to embryos, reinforcing the state Supreme Court's ruling recognizing embryos as children. The American Society for Reproductive Medicine agrees, saying it fails to correct the Supreme Court's nonsensical stance that fertilized eggs are scientifically and legally equivalent to children. Republicans say the goal of these bills is to get some of these clinics to reopen, but until they clarify the Supreme Court decision, it's not clear the clinics will think this is enough.
So they're not. So patients today who show up looking for IVF might still be turned away, is what you're telling me?
It depends if the clinic decides whether or not to reopen. But I think more importantly is, how are the patients feeling? I spoke with 2 last night.
Yes.
Sarah Houston, who is a cervical cancer survivor. She needs a surrogate and therefore IVF to have another baby. She said she's optimistic, but she feels like this bill protects the clinics and doctors more than it protects the patients. She's worried about the frozen embryos that she has. Might she be forced to give them away to someone else?
I think people need to be reminded that those embryos still don't have a heartbeat. I keep focusing on that. And, you know, Tony alluded to it. You know about this as a reporter and as a person because you've been through IVF. What is it, Nikki, that you think people don't understand and don't get about this process?
Infertility is a medical condition. Most people do not want to do IVF.
Exactly.
I've been through 4 rounds to have it. It is not fun. It's physically and emotionally draining, and this is more trauma for these women. Gabby, who I spoke with, who was going through her first round when this all began, she said, I'm optimistic, I'm hopeful. I said, would you do a second round now in Alabama if you need it? She said, no. The tides could turn again too quickly.
Wow,
Nikki,
that's, oof.
thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Yes.